Does anyone remember this? This is AS3 Sfxr, an online 8-bit sound effects maker. It would generate pulse, sawtooth, triangle, and noise to make 8-bit sounds. The other control parameters included a fully fledged envelope, filter cutoff, filter sweep, pitch sweep, repeats, and phase. Unfortunately, since this tool used Flash and Flash is no longer supported, it no longer works. But today, it lives on as a few different alternatives, two of them being Bfxr and Jfxr. And as we can see at the top of this page, something called Chiptone. We'll get to that as well. Let's take a look at one of those tools now. This is Bfxr. It is also available online as well as available as a download, so you could use it on your computer, but it is totally free to use. We have a pretty basic square with a lot of buttons and a lot of sliders here. Over here on the left are buttons for certain presets and certain types of sounds. Now, the way I think it works is that these buttons are a set of general parameters that make a sound that would sound like, say, a pickup, or a coin, or a laser shoot, or an explosion. If you click those buttons, you're going to get a sound that sounds like it, but the sound will change every time you click these buttons. Another cool thing with this, as well as Jfxr, that wasn't on the original is that down here you have the history of all the sounds that you have generated. You can keep them, or you can get rid of them by clicking X. And if you wanted to go back to a previous sound and edit it, or do anything further with it, you could just click on one of those, and it will bring up the sound again. This is very nice. But now let's take a look at the actual controls if you wanted to make your own sound from scratch. Already at the top, we have our envelope controls. We have attack time. Increase that to make it slow. Increase the sustain to make it longer. Now the punch gives the sustain a bit more pop, as the description says, or accentuates the sound. We have the decay, which follows the attack. Compression does that. And then we have our frequency, which is our pitch. And right now we have set to noise, but we can click any of these other buttons up here to change the waveform. Let's say a triangle. Let's say sine, square, or sawtooth. And we can bend the pitch by using the frequency slide. Bringing it to the right of the center point here raises the pitch, and bringing it to the left drops the pitch. The sound was repeating, and that was because one of the settings down here, the pitch jump, was set. Bringing that all the way down to -1, and now it's just one sound. It's not repeating. Now, delta slide is interesting. Delta slide is a secondary pitch setting. So if we were to have our pitch set to a certain frequency like this, delta slide changes the pitch even further. And the delta slide is always lower than the frequency that you have it set to. We have settings like vibrato. And if you bring the speed up enough, it sounds almost FM-like, which is really cool. And then you can repeat the sound by changing these settings: pitch, repeat speed, and the pitch amount. Doing it that way almost sounds like sample and hold. I don't remember if this was a parameter on the original tool, but we have harmonics. So with a sound like this, and we add harmonics, we're getting intense overtones with that. Harmonics fall off seems to be kind of like a harmonic only filter. And what it sounds like. We have even more parameters though. Look at all of this. And now we have, I called it the phase, it's actually a flanger. We have flanging. And this is where things can get cool, especially if we were to use white noise. And the cool thing with the noise for this is that if we were to change the pitch, it doesn't work exactly the same as a tonal sound, but it does work very similarly. If the noise were a sample and you were to slow down or speed up the noise, you're going to hear some interesting digital artifacts. And of course, using the filter, we could get these sounds. It's like a kick or snare almost. If we wanted to add some high-pass filter to the sound, we can do that as well. Now it really sounds like a laser shooting. But perhaps even cooler than that is, and I don't remember this from the original tool, I think this is new for this, we have bit crushing. So if it already sounds quite a bit 8-bit sounding and bit crushed, we can crush it even further. Ooh. Now that's what I'm talking about. And what's cool is we can even sweep the bit crushing effect from whatever setting we have here to a higher setting or a lower setting. Now, once we have our sound over here in the left panel, we can go over here and export WAV. Click Save, and you have your sound as a sample. Curiously, there's another tool that I haven't seen before called Footsteppr, and it seems like it's for making 8-bit Foley. Let's check that out for the first time. Interesting. Now it seems like it's just noise, and all of the parameters are either filter or decay or repeat settings meant to simulate walking. So that's interesting. It's kind of like a condensed version of the other tool, but with just noise and just a few different parameters. Dirt and wood are the darkest sounding, and grass, gravel, and snow are much brighter. If you want something a little bit different and maybe a little easier on your eyes, we have Jfxr. One of the differences here is that it shows you a little bit more about what's happening with the sound, and it also categorizes the different parameters into distinct groups. So if you wanted to change the amplitude, you have all the amplitude settings there for envelope, loudness, and so forth. Pitch and the frequency is all in this section. Then you have filters altogether, as well as the output altogether, and parameters pertaining to the tone, as well as the waveform, is all together as well. With this, you also get a live preview of the actual sound and its spectrum. Changing settings in any of these groups will show you a preview of basically what the sound is going to do. Like here, we have a slow attack, and then suddenly we jump up to this point before decaying. Vibrato changes the pitch accordingly, or tremolo rather. And just like with the other tool, you can export these sounds as well. And this also has a history portion right here, where anything that you click on here, it acts exactly the same as Bfxr. You can click on any of these to go back to the setting earlier. It is, for all intents and purposes, the same tool, just with a different skin, and it shows you a little bit more about what it does. Now, going back to the original page, you see that it's not available to work, but there is an alternative, the new tool called Chiptone. Clicking on that will take you to this page. This tool has much more of a GUI than the other tools, and it works fairly similarly. It doesn't have exactly the same parameters as the other one. There are some things that aren't quite here, like there's no flanger effect anymore, but there are other things that you could do with this. By default, you have a nice, pleasant little sine wave tone, perfectly sustained, nice at C. There's a new setting here called jerk, and that changes how fast the pitch is going to drop, or how fast the pitch is going to go back up. By default, all of the other effects are turned off, so let's turn some of them on. We can fade in and fade out effects, as we have here. We can even add FM to the sound. There's a little bit of an arpeggiating effect with this one. And of course, for something a little trippy, we have tremolo. That's a very nice one. Increasing the speed, and we get something very ring mod effect almost. Which is funny, given that ring mod is the next effect. And new for this, we have delay, which is exactly a delay. Using a combination of these settings, you could get weird, wacky effects like that. You could get something more musical. You could get something percussive. You could get something really almost borderline unusable, something that sounds almost like it's broken. And the cool thing about this, and you could do this with the original tool, but I didn't see a way to do that with Bfxr or Jfxr, is you could change the settings for your export. You could change the sample rate from 44 kilohertz to 22 kilohertz, 16-bit or 8-bit. As well as some EQ settings and some compression again. Which makes this really versatile, and if you wanted some actual 8-bit sounds, you can get actual 8-bit sounds, since you can export them in 8-bit. I've used AS3Fxr so many times in the past when it was still able to be used, and made so many samples. Too many samples for me to use all of them in anything, but I've also used Chiptone to make some samples as well, because it's a pretty good 8-bit tool, I think, for at least for one-shot samples. I do wish that this sampling module really was coming soon-ish. That would be really cool to use. But anyway, that is, or was, AS3Fxr, or the Fxr instruments, and Chiptone. See you again someday. Bye.